Hey there, friends. All right, so today I wanted to show you, actually, it's one of my very first open source projects, Genie.js. That's actually not what I'm going to show you, but the code that I'm going to show you was part of building Genie.js in the first place. So this code used to live directly in this library. So Genie.js is like, if you've used Alfred before, then or Spotlight, and like Microsoft has a thing now, you just type and you find things and you can actually execute commands and do all kinds of really cool things with this. And so with when I thought about it, I was like, hey, like keyboard shortcuts are really limited. Let's use an Alfred-like experience on the web. And so I hit control space, or sorry, I hit command space to open up Alfred and control space to open up Genie.js. So this is actually in the web app. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I hit an apostrophe to see all the options. And then I can type in here and I can look at the different things. And if I select one, then it's going to pop open. Oh, there was a Genie's lamp. I don't think this thing works, but you could try it. Yeah, kind of fun, interesting idea. So yeah, that's the idea. It's kind of fun, and the logic around what order each of these wishes goes into, that's where match sorter came from. So I built all this stuff, logic for how to order things in a way that makes sense to users, and like gave it a ranking algorithm sort of thing. And then later, a couple years later, this was my very first library. So this was pretty early on, like 4 years ago or so in my career. So a couple years later, I needed that same kind of like user-focused capability. And so I extracted this out into a library called match sorter. And so that's what I thought I'd show you today. So there's this match sorter thing. But there were already pre-existing libraries. There's lots of these that do this fuzzy search capability. If you just search like fuzzy search, then you'll find them. And that's really useful because people make typos, or they don't know exactly what they're looking for. And so by having this fuzzy search, it's kind of helpful filtering out things that don't match perfectly. So the problem with these is what I'm going to show you in this little demo. So here I've got Code Sandbox. I'm using downshift for these things, but the library match sorter is just vanilla JavaScript. It doesn't rely on React or downshift or anything like that. It's a totally separate thing. I've got these Star Wars names. That's where the items are, and I'm taking all those Star Wars names. It's just an array of strings. I'm mapping it to be an array of objects where you have a full name, and then you have these name parts, first, middle, and last. And yeah, and then we have 3 implementations of downshift. They're all basically the same except for this get items, which it's getting as a prop here. So each one of the these has its own get items implementation. So we have with includes, and that's just going to take the input value, take all the items, and filter it based on the full name. And then with fuse, uses that fuse JS implementation, and then with match sorter. And we can see how this behaves a little bit differently for each of these different implementations. So if I just hit a down arrow, then I'm not filtering anything. I'm just going to return them all. So now let's say that I want Luke Skywalker. I can type Luke space Skywalker. Okay, great. For here, I'm going to type Luke space Skywalker. And one thing that you'll notice here, and maybe if I just do Skywalker. So yeah, pay attention, Skywalker. Okay, and then in Fuse I do Skywalker, and as I'm typing, things are jumping around all over. Right there especially. Like, in fact, this doesn't even have Skywalker in it, and a whole bunch of things. These things don't have Skywalk or Skywa. So yeah, the fact that these are jumping around is a product of the just the implementation. I'm not specifically calling out fuse, but just the concept of fuzzy matching, where instead of matching the specific characters that people are typing, we're matching based off an algorithm that determines like how closely what I've typed resembles what I'm looking for. So anyway, sorry, I'm getting to lower that really quick. So that's fuse, and then match sorter. If I type Skywalker, there's no jumping around. It stays in the same order, and pretty much just like it includes did. Okay, so that is that. One other thing that I find, so when I needed this in the first place, I needed abbreviation support. So I'd have United States of America. So I wanted to be able to type USA and get United States of America, or UK for United Kingdom. And so with includes, the way that it's working is it just says, take this string and do any of the items include that string. If they do, then that's great. We'll include them. If they don't, then we'll exclude them. So here I can do LOM, but I can't do like AS to get Ayala Sakura. I can only find things that are next to each other. With fuse, or actually here we'll do LS for Luke Skywalker. It doesn't have any built-in capability for being able to do that. So Luke Skywalker is down here. And like, quite honestly, we don't really know if you're trying to do an abbreviation or not, but match sorter has built in like 6 or 7 different categories, or maybe 8, and that it ranks based off of what it assumes you might be doing. And here, like, there's an LS, LUS, LIS, and so those are matches because it has those characters in that order in the string. But this one's first because the first word starts with an L and the second word starts with an S, and so that's why they come first. So that's nice. You get that capability, and it has a bunch of semantics like that, like word starts with and word like acronym and equals and matches and a bunch of those, and we can take a look at those in a little bit. Another thing that it has is diacritics, and so here if we do Padme, if I type in E, then I actually lose it because that's a diacritic, meaning it's like the letter E except it has a accent on it. With fuse that works, Padme, because it's doing its algorithm. It's assuming that by E you might actually mean the E with as a diacritic. And then if I do space A, now Padme gets marked down to the bottom, and that's because I didn't actually type the same character here. I'm typing a different one, and so it thinks, oh, well, maybe you mean Admiral Akbar. I don't know. But then match sorter, it shows up that. So that's built into match sorter is the support for diacritics, and you can turn that off, but yeah, it'll just ignore diacritics, which is kind of handy. So weight support. So fuse sort has this cool ability to like put weight on different keys that you want to match on. So like often you have an object that has an ID and it has a bunch of other things you don't want to actually match on. You normally only want to match on the things that the user can actually see. But yeah, in this case we have several things that we can match on, and here we can provide them weight. So we're saying, hey, if it matches the last name and the first name just as equally well, then we want to focus on the first name. And so if there are 2 where the first name of this one matches better than the last name of this one, then the first name one will match better. So anyway, that's the idea there. With match sorter, it's a little more implicit. It's based on the order of your keys, and so given these 2 are equal, then it will pick the one that matches the first name better. So that's like really getting into the fine tuning of things. Fuse also supports like thresholds and a bunch of other things to really fine-tune how things work. But at the end of the day, it gives a worse user experience because things are still jumping around all over the place as the user's typing. Whereas match sorter feels much more like a filter, where it's the more that you type, the more information you're giving it, and so the narrower your search will get, which I think makes sense to most users. Misspelling. So if I type Slywalker instead, it's not even going to work. Slywalker, it won't work in includes. Slywalker, it will work with Fuse, and it will not work with match sorter. So if I mistype a K to an L, match sorter is not smart enough for that, but Fuse is. And so that's one benefit of using a fuzzy matching thing, is it can handle misspellings like that, which is kind of nice. And then if I miss a character, includes doesn't work. Skywalker, then this one does, but it's still like jumping all over the place trying to figure out what you're trying to type. And match sorter will take care of that, and that each one of these matches with the rank of match because it has those characters in that order in the string. So anyway, that's pretty much that. So the argument mostly for using match sorter over a fuzzy matching algorithm is that fuzzy matching algorithms, while they're really awesome from a like the ability to support typos and like get how close this word is to this one from the character standpoint, you're making a sacrifice on the usability, the user experience in my mind. So that's kind of why I prefer match sorter. So yeah, here's match sorter. You can check it out on here. We've got case sensitive equals. So if it's basically exactly the same, so France would match France, but not France at that ranking. So if somebody types this in, that's like the trump card. I don't like using that word. That's like the best possible match. Then there's equals, and so that's case insensitive equality. So that'll match next. Starts with, so SOU will match South Korea or South Africa. Or starts with. Word starts with, so repub. One of the words in this string matches repub, and so that gets word starts with, so that'll match next. And case starts with, so it kind of determines the casing, and then it will separate things by case, which is kind of cool. Wouldn't quite work with like McDonald because the casing that's just the way that it works, but it could be helpful. So we've got case starts with right afterwards starts with, and then case acronym. So UK would match United Kingdom or United Kingdom, or United Space Kingdom, or yeah, I don't. Oh no, that's later on. Yeah. So then contains, ham would match Bahamas, and then an acronym comes next, and that's United Space States. And then we have the simple match. So if it doesn't match any of those, then we'll see, given all the letters that I have, does this item have those letters in that order anywhere in the string? And it's case insensitive. So I, W, and then this one is W, I, and so it doesn't match because it must be in the same order. And then, oh yeah, also it gives a ranking based off of how close those characters are. And so UA matches here more closely than U, and then A, because the characters are closer together. So, anyway, so that's how that works. And then so it's pretty simple if you just have a list of strings. If you have a list of objects, then you specify your keys that you want to have matched. Sometimes you'll have an ID or something else that you're not showing to the user. You don't want to match on those. And so you specify the keys that you want to have match. Those keys can, those keys can also reference an array of values, and it will check on that array of values, that array of string values. And then also if it's a nested object, then you can do the dot notation. That applies also if it's an array, you use dot notation instead of bracket notation. It makes it easier for our implementation. And so that's just the way it is. Normally this, like, not many people need this feature anyway, so I don't think it's worth the added complexity to make it support the bracket notation. Complexity and bundle size. Okay, so then as like a final last, what's the word I'm looking for? Like last resort, then you use the function notation, which I am pretty sure that array is wrong. We should take away those brackets. Or no, that's right. That's an array of key items, I guess. But in any case, here we can have the like get the property that we want to match on, which is, yeah, there's that. Then we also have a max rating. So the fuse has the weight, which is pretty cool. We can sort these by what order we want them to match. Like given all other things equal, this is the order they should come in. But we can even give a little bit more weight by fudging around with the max and min ranking. So we could say that something that shouldn't match very highly, we can limit how high of a ranking it can match against. It'll still match, it'll still appear in the list, but it can't get a ranking higher than the starts with ranking. And then we can do the opposite. So we can have something that's really important, we want to match really highly. We give it a min ranking so that if it matches, then it will be given a ranking that's equal to equal, which is a pretty high ranking. Then we also have a threshold, so it has to match at least contains, otherwise it won't be returned. Or you can set no match if you want everything returned, just the ones with no match will be at the bottom. Keep diacritics, so if you care about diacritics, then you can keep those around. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This library is pretty neat. I want it everywhere that I'm using any sort of fuzzy matching. I'm pretty sure that Downshift or that Code Sandbox uses this. Like if I were to do BA, that's basic autocomplete, getting my acronym 01, the autocomplete JS. So it's all coming together. So I'm pretty sure Code Sandbox is using match sorter, which is pretty neat. And this is actually also a Command P. This is Downshift right here too, which is pretty awesome. So hopefully that's helpful. I've got links to all this stuff in the video description, and I will see you all later. Have a wonderful day. Bye.